you're going to be effective at leading diverse groups of people, if I call it inclusive lens of leadership, the first thing you got to do is you got to commit to what I call a culture of love and appreciation. What is a culture of love and appreciation? A culture of love and appreciation is number one, where you're committed to appreciating and valuing everyone despite their difference. But number two, it's about loving people. And when I define love, love is an ability to do good to people despite how you feel, here comes the tough part, and despite how they treat you. So when I'm committed to create a culture of love and I'm committed to create a culture of appreciation, that means not only am I valuing people, not only am I appreciating people, but I'm loving people. I'm being kind. I'm being patient. I'm going the extra mile. I'm being forgiving to them. This is the first question that I think we need to consider, that we need to ask if we're going to be effective at leading a diverse group of people with what I call an inclusive lens of leadership. And the reason why I think this is so important, because number one, Mother Teresa said, and I quote, she said, there's more hunger in the world for love and appreciation than there is for bread. In essence, according to Mother Teresa, she goes on to say that people hunger and they desire love and appreciation more than the thing they eat or more than food that they eat on a daily basis. In addition to that, I discovered that when we love people, when we appreciate people, when we're kind, when we're patient, when we go the extra mile, when people know we have their back, not only does it make it more effective in building quality relationships with people that are different from us, but it also enables us to engage in courageous conversations. It enables us to have transparent conversations, and more importantly, enables us to lead more effectively, because what I often tell people is there's a difference between someone who leads with love and someone who doesn't. It's kind of like when my grandmother back in the day, she used to cook all this wonderful food during the holiday season. I remember my grandmother would say, she said, Joshua, I put my love into that food, and I could feel that love because the food was good. And the same is true when it comes to leadership. The same is true when it just comes to relationships, that we got to put our love into it. But again, in order to put love into it, that means we're appreciating people. That means that we're going the extra mile. That means that we're being patient. That means that we're doing everything we can to ensure that that person can feel the compassion that we have for them. And it's one of the reasons why I love this quote by Cornel West. And he says, and I quote, watch this. He says, you can't lead the people if you don't love the people. And he says, you can't save them if you don't serve them. It's a powerful statement, because what he's saying is this. He's saying if you're going to lead people effectively, then you have to lead them from a place of love. And when you begin to deal with diversity, you begin to deal with differences and different ideas and different opinions and different personalities and different backgrounds, it makes it even more important that people know that you have their best interest. It makes it even more important that people know that you value them, that people know that you appreciate them. In essence, when we put our love on it, it enables us to be more empathetic and be more compassionate. See, when I love you, when I value you, I'm going to be more compassionate. I'm going to be more empathetic. I'm going to be more patient. You know, when you love someone, you're gonna be more patient. I'm gonna be more supportive. I'm gonna go the extra mile. Something changes when we are leading with love and when we are appreciating each other. And there's another quote that took place at Harvard University, and I want you to watch this. They found the study that workplaces were more harmonious and were more effective when people appreciate each other. So we're dealing with different backgrounds, and we're dealing with different ideologies, when we're dealing with different political beliefs, when we're dealing with different religious beliefs, when we're dealing with different genders, we're dealing with different sexuality. At the end of the day, what enables us to get through the challenges and the conversations and sometimes the things that try to bring us apart is that people know that we love them. People know that we appreciate them. And I think this is so incredibly important if we're going to be effective at leading diverse groups of people with what I call an inclusive lens of leadership. And one of the greatest examples that I like to share is several years ago, I had the opportunity to attend a local church here in South Florida. And it was a Sunday morning. I remember I went to church, and the pastor was not speaking that day because there was a guest speaker that was from Rwanda, Africa. And so she gets on stage and she's speaking and she's inspiring and she's motivating. In the middle of her presentation, she says, let me share with you my story. And she talked about how she grew up in Canada And then one day, her and her husband felt this inspiration to move to Rwanda, Africa. And the reason they wanted to move to Rwanda, Africa, was because they wanted to help people that were being hurt in this nation. In essence, according to her, this is considered the second most dangerous place in the world. There was major killings, there was major challenges, there were just all these obstacles that were transpiring in Rwanda. And she felt called, she felt like it was her purpose to go to this country and to help those in need. And she was sharing this story. She said, after about 3 months of helping the community, at inspiring the community, at making a difference, she said one day someone broke into her home. And they broke into her home with these guns. They said, "Ma'am, give us your money." And she said she sat there tied up in barbed wire, freaked out. And she said, "We don't have any money." And then she said, the gentleman said, "Listen, ma'am, if you don't give us your money, we're going to blow your head off." And with tears coming down her eyes and stripping out, she said, "Don't have any money." And he says one last time, he said, "Listen, if you don't give us your money, we're going to blow your husband's head off." And there were tears coming down her eyes. And she said, with just so much fear, she said, "I don't have any money." Not the last time she said, they said the guys put the gun, they pulled the trigger, but nothing came out. And they were so freaked out that they left the house. And her and her husband, they got out of the barbed wire, amazed at what just happened, absolutely amazed. As they were talking to each other, they had a decision to make. And the decision was this: do we stay here and continue to serve, or do we go back to Canada? This was the decision. Do we stay, or do we go home? As I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, trying to figure out what she decided to do, she puts a picture on the board and she says, "We decided to stay." Because she decided to stay, not only does her ministry draw 20,000 plus every weekend, but this young baby is one of the 2,500 orphans that she's been able to take care of after all the challenges that happened in Rwanda, Africa. And there was a gentleman, she said, came up to her and said, "Ma'am, I just want to ask you a question. What inspired you to stay? Like you almost died." She looked the gentleman in the eye. She said, "There was two things that made me stay." She said, "The first thing was, I love my purpose more than my life." And I was like, whoa, that's deep. She said, "I love my purpose more than my life. And I believe that it's my purpose to be here." She said, "Number two, I love these people too much to go back." As I sat there listening to what she said, I couldn't help but just see the power of love at work. And at that point, I made up in my mind, not only was I going to be an advocate of love, but I was going to inspire other people to lead with love as well. Because what I realized is when we commit ourselves to appreciation, when we commit ourselves to love, we can overcome anything. We can impact anything. As a matter of fact, Dr. King said, and I quote, he said, "Love drives out hate." There's a famous biblical scripture, and I just want to share with you today. It says, "Love casts out all fear." There's something about love that gets rid of hate and gets rid of fear and all the things that try to stop us from uniting and coming together as one. And so ultimately, here's the takeaway today, because I don't want to just tell you to create a culture of love and appreciation. I want to give you some things that you can consider to create that in your place of influence as a leader. Number one, we got to be intentional about love, meaning we got to implement principles. We got to be intentional about loving people, be intentional about appreciating people, letting people know that we care about them, let them know that we're empathetic, let them know that we're listening. Number two, we got to make sure that people feel love. See, when you're leading diverse groups of people from all walks of life, you have some people that may be the only orange in the all green environment. You have some people that may be the only blue in the all yellow environment. And they may not feel comfortable. So our job is to make sure they feel comfortable, to make sure they feel loved, to make sure they feel appreciative, make sure they feel a sense, what I like to call, of belonging. And then number three, I got to stay committed. I got to stay committed to love. When I got upset, I got to stay committed to love. When I get frustrated, I got to stay committed to love. When someone does something wrong to me, I got to be committed to love. Love is not based on your feeling. Love is not even based on how someone treats you. Love is something you do because that's who you are. And if we're going to be effective at leading diverse groups of people with what I call an inclusive lens of leadership, I think the first thing we got to do is we got to commit ourselves to creating a culture, creating a people that believe in appreciating and loving people no matter who they are.